Um, I don't get critics. Sometimes you should listen to critics. Sometimes critics are right, like with the Transformers movies or with the Matrix and stuff like that, But sometimes critics are mad. The critics said Equilibrium was not that great a film. The critics said Spider-Man 2 was one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. I'll let you be the judge of that. So critics have united in pretty much slamming In Time, because In Time currently has a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, and from what I heard from people, it had bad reviews. And for me, I was like, most of the time, whenever I hear one, this thing has bad reviews, I'm like, what? But you know what? I said, no. Truman Show, Simone, Gattaca, Lord of War. This guy has delivered films and was yet to make a dud, and his films are like, each films are just like original films, no remakes, no adaptation. This is just fully from a guy's mind. And for me, I'm just shocked that this Andrew Niccol is not preached about enough. He's not heralded enough, because it just shows you how fake people are. Because when you just see the whole infatuation with Nolan and this was such a great person, I'm thinking, wait a minute, why doesn't Andrew Niccol get as much praise as Nolan? Because Andrew Niccol is a guy who all the films he's made, including In Time, are all original films from his head. And all of his films are films that you can have social commentary on. I'm going to say, doing history and philosophy of science in university, I was actually discussing with people, and people who were connected to our faculty said that they actually had lessons and courses, there were actually lessons dedicated to the film Gattaca. That's how much of a film that film was, So yeah, going into In Time, I was like, I said before, Justin Timberlake, why is he doing this? Wrong show. So I was like, okay, it's a bit iffy. Quick rundown on this one. I'm trying not to be that spoiled, but quick run on the film. Basically, this is a film where it's a world where people at 25, people can live no longer than 25. So 25 is the maximum age. So once you reach 25, you can now purchase a lot more years. So put it into perspective, you can see a guy who he appears to look 25 in his 20s, but in fact he may actually be 70 or 80 or even 100. That's just based on just how much money he has and how much time he's bought himself. And everybody on their arm like this has a clock that's counted down to the end of their life. So when you have a job, you get paid by time. When you buy food, when you go to the grocery store, everything even if you go to a hotel, you purchase with time. So that's the concept of the film. And again, the concept of the film was driven at you all the time, and it just really kept you thinking. It just kept you thinking. So I don't know what critics were saying about this. I don't really understand. For me, the major weakness of this film was the casting. That was it. For me, I thought the direction was good, was solid. I thought the script was very good, a very good script, and the concept was extremely amazing, But I just think that the only thing that let this thing down was music was also good as well. The down was Timberlake is not Paul Walker. He's not Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Okay, Timberlake can act, but Timberlake is a guy who he needs to find the right role for him. And when you see stuff like Alpha Dog, when he's trying to be a tough guy, when you see stuff like this, he can't do these kinds of films. As in, you be put like an Andrew Garfield in this role, it's a better film. It's a better film. And as for Amanda Seyfried, again, as the old saying goes, if you've got nothing good to say nothing at all. So therefore, I'm not really going to say anything about Amanda Seyfried, because I think that should tell you about what I thought of her performance in this film. There's nothing to be said. But again, for me, I feel really the best actor in this is a guy who actually I always like him in pretty much everything, and the guy who I believe is actually getting better was Cillian Murphy. Plays the timekeeper, so he makes sure that people aren't really stealing time. Because again, another concept to this whole thing is by touching each other's hand and basically you touch each other's hand and you can basically retract time of people, so people can steal time of people, give other people time and that kind of thing. So really there's a lot of friction about, guys wanting more time, trying to find ways of like borrowing time of people, stealing time of people. There's like a gang who actually specialize in just stealing time off of people. But I think that the main catalyst of the film is a guy who somehow has like 100 years on him, and he meets obviously the Timberlake character, and this guy's like, because this guy talks about the whole concept of immortality. Okay, you have all these years. I mean, but is there any point in living all of these years? Death may be something that all humans need, and that kind of thing. So many things. So then this guy who has 100 years now actually gives pretty much all his time to the Justin Timberlake character to use with however he wishes, and then he then basically killed himself. So then Timberlake, with all this time, now starts to try to see how he can change things. But yeah, but really for me, I just think that they were just. I liked the film. For me, I liked the film. I liked the story, the concept. I just liked the questions that it's asked. And again, watching this film again, it just made me think of another sci-fi film which was touted and had like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, which was Inception. Again, I look at Inception, and for me, I can't even class it as a sci-fi film. It was very well directed. It was much better acted. I mean, for me, the acting in Inception trounced the acting in this easily. But as far as a story, and as far as a story in the sci-fi-ness, and as far as actually thinking about the concepts and about the moral questions and about the social commentary, there was none of that in Inception. It was just a guy saying, "Oh, look at how smart I am," and it was too complicated. Very well directed, very well acted, but again, it's like it didn't make it. It was just like, okay, this is just very complex, and I don't know, have no idea what's really happening. But whereas in Time, very basic plot story with a very basic chase, things for the whole action elements in there, but there was just so much to think about. Like, is immortality really a desired thing for human beings? I mean, do you really want to live forever on Earth? I mean, what would you do if you had 100 years? Really, I mean, for me, boredom would get to at one point, and it just makes it, because it's actually wild. Just briefly before they did this video, even Mike, even saying about, we've been saying that, like, this film really makes you think about your own time, about really using your time, not lounging, not slouching about, because in this world that Andrew Niccol created, man, it was like guys really had to really think about their time. Say, look, man, it's going to take me 30 minutes to get here. It's going to take me like a few months to get here. Don't really want to do that. So you're thinking every single time, really using every single second you have. And yeah, I can think that just like the theme of Gattaca, like there's no gene for the human spirit. Like in this film, I just think like the theme of this film was like, really cherish your time, cherish every second you have. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. But for me, I just think that this film could have easily been like a 9 out of 10. This could have really been a classic film, and I feel that this could have been a classic film if you had different actors. Because I think that's what Andrew Niccol was going at, and I don't know, this might be a trend with directors now. Because again, you look at because I think about Scorsese, is like, for me, I really feel like if Scorsese would still be using De Niro as his main actor up to now, but I feel that he's a guy who's like a victim of the changes in the psychology of cinema and the business of cinema. DiCaprio is more likely to greenlight a film with his name than De Niro is, so therefore they're more willing to give a green light to a DiCaprio-led film than a De Niro-led film. So for Andrew Niccol, he was saying that if you just offered just like a guy off the streets, who's a very good actor, but just a guy off the road who nobody knows about, I'm not becoming good young actors to be the lead in this film, they still would say, no, sorry, we can't give you the money. But he puts Justin Timberlake in there. Just even in the cinema that I watched in, there was all these little girls coming in who I know I know they don't give a damn about the sci-fi-ness of this story, but they're here because it's Timberlake in there. And that's catch. So because I just felt that the casting really let this thing down, but I just felt like if Andrew Lincoln was really free, because I felt that Timberlake would not have really been his first choice. I just felt that he was like, what, let me work with this. So he just felt like he can only work with someone. Because again, when you just look at the kinds of guys he's worked with, you look at Al Pacino, you look at Ethan Hawke, you look at Jared Leto, you look at all of these guys, you look at Jim Carrey, a guy who he did not put the comedic to Jim Carrey. He actually gave forth the dramatic Jim Carrey, something that was different. He's worked with Ed Harris as well. So this is a guy who's worked with quality actors, And again, and guys, I'm sorry, watch Cable Guy, because Jim Carrey is a quality actor, okay? How many actors really get denounced, okay? So, because you saw what he did in Truman Show. But I just felt that, if Andrew Niccol was really free from the kind of studio tentacles, I felt that this film would have been a lot more different. It would have been a lot more serious, a lot more grounded, and you would have really gotten that whole thing of like this guy having this time thing with him, But I just felt that it did not feel as dense, as psychologically and scientifically dense as his other films, as his his Gattacas or his Truman shows, or his Simon's Bishop, really dense in social commentary and thoughts, but yeah, I mean, I just think that really it's, for me, I just feel like if there's no point in models can't act, models, they just can't act. Some can, but for me, I always say always go for actors, man. Always go for guys who can act, because again, for me, if you respect what acting is about, acting is not a model contest. It's not a pretty boy or a pretty girl contest. Okay, it's about the art of acting. Okay, so I'm portraying a damn character, but acting, But for me, I'll just say that, man, guys, I really, really recommend this film. Do not listen for a second to the critics. Okay, this film, I guarantee you, unless you're a guy who is not interested in science or interested in sociology, or a guy who doesn't really think about the world around him, I will guarantee you that you will be thinking about this film. And this film, when you're watching it, it will make you think about it. Wow, man, what would I do in this situation? The thing that will really get your brain pumping and then going, So for me, I just think that Andrew Niccol, man, this guy, he's yet to make a dud film. He's yet to make a dud film, and literally all of his films have been on point. I just think that this guy definitely deserves a lot more credit, and I just find it just odd how you can look at a film like Inception and praise that film so much highly than a film like In Time, because these are two films who are both in the same genre, but for me, In Time is just a far better science fiction film that properly follows the rules of a science fiction film than what Inception does. So that's just, that's just my take on that thing, But yeah, this is definitely a recommendation for me. If you're into your sci-fi and things like that, man, definitely watch this film. I just think that it's it's I just keep saying as like, because even when I was halfway through this film, in my mind I was just thinking that, okay, am I supposed to be thinking this is bad? Again, I told you, like, the film for me, because I'm not seeing Lord of War in a time, but for me, I feel this is not, because for me it's still good, but I feel this is not as strong as Simone or Gattaca or Truman Show. I feel like if those three films definitely are stronger than this film, but I just feel like if there is still that same trend that he has, because that's why I have a lot of respect for this man, because this guy, he's not taking a comic book movie, he's not taking an adaptation, he's not taking a remake. This guy has continued his trend as this is an original film from his mind, a totally original film from his soul, from his gut. So for me, in a world of remakes and reboots and stupid Akira adaptations, for me, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself, if you call yourself a true, real film fan, to pay every single cent of your cash to support quality, originality, and to support a filmmaker, in my mind, who is a modern great. Based on his film, for me, I just felt like he is easily, without doubt, the most underappreciated writer, director right now. Easily. Fact. Thank you.